Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Voice of Armenians TV New York. The topic of our discussion today is issue of domestic violence in Armenia, an important topic to discuss. I want to introduce our guests, Anahid Ugurlayan, an assistant director at the BBB National Programs National Advertising Division, and Deputy Director at the National Advertising Review Board. Marina Manoukian, the head of the Family and Construction Law Department at ADLI Law Group. And Ruben Stepanian, New York Divorce and Family Law Attorney, an administrative law judge at New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. Welcome, everyone. Anahid, I want to begin our conversation with you. There's been a committee formed to tackle this difficult issue, and perhaps it is fair to say maybe a taboo issue in our culture, specifically in Armenia, to look into domestic violence in the country, in our motherland. Tell us how and why this committee was formed.
Thank you, Haig, and thank you for having us to speak about this important topic. The committee began its work in earnest in March of 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, in response to the murder of a woman in Gyumri at the hands of her partner, who also severely beat her 13-year-old daughter, ironically coinciding with International Women's Day. This was the fourth femicide in Gyumri in 2020. After a flurry of emails to the Armenian Bar Association, our committee was soon formed. It consists of preeminent family law practitioners on the East and West Coasts, including a family court judge, attorneys who do not specialize in family law, and law students, all of whom were prepared to learn about the domestic violence problem in Armenia and find ways to combat it. The Armenian Bar Association has engaged in consistently outspoken efforts to raise awareness about domestic violence in Armenia and its repercussions.
I grew up in Armenia myself, and no one ever spoke about this. You know, the understanding was that whatever happens behind closed doors should remain behind closed doors. So no one really knew, even if it was an issue to begin with, and if it was, how widespread it was. Ruben, this question is for you. How serious is this issue? How widespread domestic violence issue is in Armenia?
First, hi, thank you for having us, and I really appreciate that you are making an effort in highlighting this issue. Because the problem is widespread, I can throw statistics at you. Sure, one is I have one in 4 women in Armenia has experienced domestic violence. And another alarming one is that during a sociological study, 76% of everyone who took the survey came back saying, justifying domestic violence. And the survey was, taken by men and women. So it wasn't just like, oh, the men are, saying, oh, it's okay, It was not like that. But I think, in the beginning of the show, you, Haik, said that it's taboo for Armenians to speak about this. And that's absolutely correct. The issues are cultural more. So the statistics, yeah, they're there, but the cultural issues, and we all know just from our own experiences, are there. So generally speaking, when domestic violence is brought up, or if someone complains about domestic violence, the very first thing that happens is victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do wrong? Why is it something that you did that could have prevented him from, hurting you?
Or worse,
these are
worse, you deserve it. Worse, you deserve it.
Or worse, you deserve it.
right.
Yeah, and just that by way of background, I was born in Armenia. We came here when I was a kid back in 1987. But I do, I'm from that culture, and I know what we do. And another big thing is that when domestic violence is reported, and because us Armenians, we have such strong family values, and us as a committee of the Armenian Bar Association, we seek to protect the family values of Armenians, because we live in America and we know, uh, uh, well, when family values aren't there, what happens to a society. So it is our goal to maintain that. However, because of our family values, um, you know, uh, uh, a victim reporting domestic violence, the officer that responds wants to try to reconcile. Oh, come on. I mean, it's okay. It's just one time. Just go and let's see. You're a family. You're gonna be stronger together. And it goes up on the scale. The judiciary, judges try to reconcile. And in reconciling, what they're really doing is they're saying that the abuser's conduct, it's not good, but it's not so bad to for us to punish him in any way. So the issues are cultural, and we need to address those issues.
Are there any existing laws in Armenia that protects victims of domestic violence?
Thank you for that question. Yes. The name of the law translated in English is the Prevention of Violence Within the Family, Protection of Victims of Violence Within the Family, and Restoration of Peace in the Family. And it was enacted in December of 2017 to some resistance. And so the language is there, and our committee has been reviewing the existing law, looking at other analysis of this existing law to find whether there are shortcomings, which we have found there to be. And we are working towards improving the existing law by drafting what they call a white paper to propose amendments to the existing law. And I want to go into some of the shortcomings that are high priority to us. Anahid and Ruben, feel free to chime in if you want. So some of the high priority items for us within the existing law is that there is currently a temporary insanity defense to domestic violence. And basically the way that the law is written right now means that if a murder of a spouse is committed in a state of sudden insanity caused by the action or the inaction of the victim, that is a defense to domestic violence. And that is troublesome because, as anybody can understand, the victim cannot be blamed. And some of the actions or inactions that form this defense, that blaming the victim, include immorality or heavy insults. And so you can imagine that if a victim has been accused of unfaithfulness, the perpetrator of domestic violence can use that as an excuse for committing domestic violence. And now the victim and her actions are on trial rather than the perpetrator of the violence. That's of high priority to us right now to propose a white paper to make amendments to that defense. Another priority for us is the law allows for the police to give a warning when they are first called out to a home for domestic violence. And that has posed problems in the real world where a victim calls the police arrive, and the law doesn't currently require any action for the severity of the domestic violence. And so if the police in their discretion want to give a warning to the perpetrator, they're allowed to do that. And then what happens when the police leave and the victim is left there with the perpetrator? And, you know, in the real world, this results in the second act of domestic violence being a lot more severe, because now she's called the police have just, you know, given a warning and walked away, and now she's in real trouble. Other areas of shortcoming that we intend to address are that there are no interim custody and visitation for children, or ability to get orders such as those when emergency intervention occurs. So let's say that the victim calls the police and the police come over and they decide that maybe there's a temporary domestic violence restraining order that should be issued. There are no interim measures to protect the children. So a perpetrator of violence may have access to the children and then may commit acts of domestic violence against the children. In the US, we have such interim orders available for the protection of the children. That's missing from the current law. And another one, and there's a lot, but I'll conclude with this fourth one. If there is a criminal conviction of domestic violence, the protective orders go away. And we think that that's inappropriate because, you know, we can't guarantee how long or if at all a jail sentence might be for the conviction of domestic violence and what happens when the perpetrator is released. The protections should stay there to protect the victims. So we're looking deeply into the current existing statutes and working together as a committee to write up a white paper and to propose changes, and hopefully to have somebody who will take the spear and go into parliament to make these changes happen.
Anahid, I have a question for you. So the committee is doing its work in United States. As Marina described, studying the laws, seeing the shortcomings of the laws, making recommendations. But none of it really has teeth until it's enacted into law, if I'm correct. How do you work to make that happen? How do you work with Armenian government, legislative body? How do you make your recommendations make a real difference in the lives of these victims?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So as Marina mentioned, we actively looking to see parliamentarians who will be able to champion this law, you know, and really be able to, you know, take the necessary steps to have it considered. It's not going to be easy. And as you mentioned, you know, earlier, you know, this is a difficult time politically for Armenia, but we are really hoping that we find the right people who can really help push this, you know, the amendments that we are suggesting through, because it's very important. If these changes are not made, and what we identified are the most egregious shortcomings in the law, you know, so what we're hoping is this is a first step, but and you know, if these changes will be enacted, hopefully there will be more changes to come. But this is the first step, and sort of the legal aspect, if you will, of our work. We do also have other specific activities concerning raising awareness about domestic violence.
Well, let me follow up on that. Let me follow up on that point. First of all, can you give us an example of an outreach to communities, to local communities? And, you know, second part of my question, how do you overcome this taboo? I think that's, you know, probably one of the most fundamental challenges that you must be facing. How do you make, let's say, a woman, a wife, a member of the family, a member of the community, to, for lack of a better word, break alliance and come out to you and say, you know, this is what happened to me, I need help?
Right. So over the last year and a half, we have learned a great deal from activists who are working on the front lines. We are supporting existing projects of organizations like the Women's Support Center, which is the sort of preeminent organization that has shelters throughout Armenia and assist women from beginning to end when they're able to, sort of get back on their feet again. And we're trying to also develop new programs to address issues such as, fostering healthy relationships, addressing mental health issues that fuel domestic violence. In the United States, because the domestic violence program is not limited, the problem is not limited to Armenia. This certainly exists in the diaspora. We have actually reached out to clergy who are taking this issue very seriously, and we are working to see to develop programs and outreach. Specifically, one example is to ensure that clergy receive training so that they can assist families in crisis. And we're also organizing events and fundraisers to actively engage people of all ages to support these initiatives. But certainly the activists on the ground are the ones who are best equipped to help the women who are trying to escape violence. And it's not easy. They have a hard time because a lot of the women are very afraid. They may not want to leave the home. They're afraid about what's going to happen to their children. So this is, our work is multi-layered, and it's going to take years and years to, not only raise awareness about the problem, but also try to make it easier for these women to be able to escape their abusive home, have a law that will protect them so that they are not worried, that they can make sure that their children are safe, so they are not reluctant to leave the home and take the step that they need to escape violence and have a healthy life.
Yeah.
Right. Can I just add something?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the way that we intend on changing things is, one, of course, attacking the law that is very weak at this stage. But like I said before, the issues, and all of us recognize it, are cultural. So I think the understanding must be that domestic violence, yes, it's bad to commit violence against any human being, right? But the effect of domestic violence is far-reaching, because the child that sees the violence will ultimately either get into a relationship where they are hurt by their significant other, or they get into a relationship where they're actually perpetrating the violence. And because of the cyclical relationship of domestic violence, it has a real impact on the society's GDP. Economically, it's devastating to a country, and that is why it is just so important for our country, our Armenia, to be stronger, and that is the purpose of this group. It's to empower our people, our brothers and sisters out there in Armenia.
Yeah. Marina, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I was going to add that Anahid and Ruben covered this really well. So awareness is key to bringing an end to or minimizing domestic violence in Armenia. Awareness of what's available to you, what you are capable of doing with the help of authorities and NGOs or the Women's Support Center. Changing the laws to better protect victims is also key. But what I recall Armenian Bar doing even before our committee was formed in the infancy of our program was also sending training. I recall, I can't remember the year, but it was the summertime, and we were able to send a Glendale Police Department officer and a judge to train people in Armenia, including the shelter, the people who work at the Women's Support Center and the shelter, and also police officers, I believe, in how to respond to and deal with domestic violence. So as Anahid said, it's several layers. Our work involves several layers, and awareness, improving of laws, training, and supporting other organizations. When we were talking, I wanted to give a shout out on this program to this women owned and operated startup who created the Safe You app, which is an incredible app, which victims can install on their phones. And it has functions such as automatic recording and automatic notice being sent to your support people and authorities if you're, subject to domestic violence at the moment. And so when we interviewed or spoke to the lady who created the program, the way she was describing how the app works, it could be a real lifesaver. And it has actually worked in practice.
How can a community, Armenian, New York, New Jersey, in our case, because that's where the show is, get involved? How can they help?
Well, there's so much the diaspora can do. We actually have a subcommittee that is specifically focused on programs and outreach. But I'm going to give some ideas. One is, spreading the word about domestic violence in Armenia on social media by sharing articles and posts by organizations that are working on the ground. So for example, there was an article in Forbes about the Safe You app that Marina just mentioned, and sharing posts by the Women's Support Center and Quidigs. This is very important because each time you share it, people learn more and more about the problem. Another thing is organizing educational programs, and that also includes age-appropriate projects with children at Armenian day schools or Saturday or Sunday schools to help foster healthy relationships. The combating domestic violence, as we've all mentioned, is a multi-layered process. So it's very important to teach kids at a young age what healthy relationships look like. Another is organizing fundraisers. One idea is having a walk or a run that coincides with Mother's Day and Father's Day. Men have to be a part of the solution to this problem. And you can also organize programs on months that coincide with domestic violence awareness. So for example, October is coming. That happens to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the United States. April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month. So there's a lot that can be done by the community. And I hope that each community will consider doing one or two programs, and I think collectively that will help make a difference.
Okay, this will do it. Thank you very much, everyone. It was incredibly informative, an important conversation, and I also call for our audience to get involved. We will provide a link to the website where people can get in touch with this initiative. And once again, thank you very much, and look forward to having you on a show again to see how you're making the progress on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.